Next, from the state capitol, we attend a special House committee formed to investigate allegations of bribery leveled against State Representative Derrick Smith. This was the first meeting of the special House committee. This runs about 15 minutes.
6 members being present, we have a quorum. I would like to note that Representative Derrick Smith is not here today, and we are required to give him notice under the House rules for the disciplinary proceedings, and for that to talk about the notice that was provided to Representative Smith, I'd like to recognize the counsel for the Special Investigative Committee, Mr. Dave Ellis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This special committee was created last Wednesday, March 21st. On that day, at the direction of the chair, I telephoned Representative Derrick Smith. I spoke with him briefly. I informed him of the creation of the Special Investigative Committee and of the existence of the petition that created the committee. The following day, Thursday, March 22nd, I followed up with an email. The email, that was his chosen method of being contacted. In that email, I enclosed a copy of the petition and again notified him of the date and time of the hearing. I do have a copy of that email here that is redacted, just to take out his email address, and would, I think at the appropriate time, suggest it be admitted as Exhibit Number 1 into the record. Subsequently, I have spoken with Representative Smith. He assured me that he was aware of the hearing. He had read the petition. I also spoke with an attorney yesterday who had authorization to contact me. I don't know if this is the person who will be Derrick Smith's attorney ultimately, but he did have authorization to discuss the matter with me, and we discussed in general terms what this hearing would be about and obviously the timing of it. And so, Madam Chair, I think it's clear that the subject of this investigation has been made fully aware of the date and time of this hearing. Is my understanding from yesterday. He is choosing not to appear today. And in addition to the email and telephonic notices we've discussed, there was also public notice done pursuant to House rule, the 6-day posting. All of that being the case, I would submit that that notice has been more than proper thus far.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. So I think at this point I'd like to enter a copy of the email from Counsel Ellis to Representative Smith into the record as Exhibit 1. And as Mr. Ellis noted, Representative Smith's email address has been redacted, and the attachment to the email, which is in fact a copy of the petition, will also not be included, as it is under the House rules to remain confidential. So this Special Investigative Committee has been created by the Speaker pursuant to House Rule 91, and for the most part this committee will operate as any other House committee under the same House rules. There are some special provisions, however, governing disciplinary proceedings such as this, and so in accordance with those rules, I believe our first order of business is for this Special Investigative Committee to hear from Representative SACIA, who will present and file with this committee a written charge. So, Representative SACIA, are you prepared to present the committee with the written charge?
I am, Madam Chair.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. The House rules for the 97th General Assembly were adopted by a majority of the members of the House on February 8, 2011. Article 12 of House Rules details procedures for disciplinary proceedings against members of the House. House Rule 91, paren A, close paren, specifies mandatory creation of a special investigating committee if a petition containing suggested charges is signed by 3 or more members of the Illinois House. The petition, signed by 5 members of the Illinois House and filed with the Speaker of the House on Wednesday, March 21, 2012, contains charges which, if true, may subject the member named in the petition to disciplinary action by the House. Pursuant to House Rule 92, paren B, close paren, a list of suggested charges is submitted to the Special Investigating Committee for a thorough investigation of all allegations and charges of impropriety concerning Representative Derrick Smith, 10th District. Detailed below is the charge brought forward for the committee's consideration. In addition, a copy of the sworn criminal complaint United States of America versus Derrick Smith, filed in the United States District Court, Northern District of Illinois, on March 12, 2012, is submitted to the committee for its review and consideration. The criminal complaint, made by Special Agent Brian M. Butler of the Federal Bureau of Investigation before the Honorable Nan R. Nolan, U.S. Magistrate Judge, details the alleged facts of the complaint. It is relevant to the charge and allegations set forth against Representative Smith. Charge number 1. Representative Smith provided an official letter of support on his letterhead for a daycare owner's application for a state grant from the Illinois Capital Development Board in exchange for personally accepting a $7,000 bribe. Conclusion. The acts detailed in this charge constitute a level of misconduct and misuse of the office to which Representative Smith was appointed, a gross breach of the public trust, and a violation of federal and state laws, prompting me to submit this charge to the Special Investigating Committee for its consideration. Submitted March 27, 2012, and signed by me, Jim SACIA, State Representative, 89th District.
Thank you, Representative SACIA. So the committee is in receipt of the charge, which will be entered into the record as Exhibit 2. The committee is also in receipt of the document that you referenced entitled A Criminal Complaint in the matter of United States of America versus Derrick Smith, and a copy of that document will be entered into the record as Exhibit 3. Is there any other evidence that you're aware of that we would need to admit?
Only at your direction, Madam Chair.
Okay, I'm not aware of anything. So I appreciate your being here, Representative SACIA.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee.
Now that we have completed the formal submission of the charge, I'd like to make some opening remarks, and we'll offer that opportunity to my colleagues to do the same if they choose. I'd first like to thank the members of the committee of the Special Investigative Committee for their willingness to serve. This is not easy duty that we're undertaking here. And I know that each of us will take the task before us very seriously. In carrying out this responsibility, I hope to keep 3 things in mind. First, being fair to Representative Smith. Second is respecting and protecting the institution of the House of Representatives, which is something I hold near and dear to my heart. And last, but certainly not least, is safeguarding the public trust. A couple of notes just on the process. The purpose of this committee is not to discipline Representative Smith. We are, in fact, only to inquire into the underlying facts as thoroughly as possible and determine whether disciplinary charges are, in fact, warranted. If they are, under the House rules, another tribunal of 12 House members will determine whether or not to recommend discipline to the full House. If that tribunal so chooses, the House as a body will ultimately determine the appropriate discipline for Representative Smith. Representative Smith has not been convicted of a crime. He has been arrested on the basis of a sworn criminal complaint. He is accused, but presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt following a full, fair trial. Nonetheless, I have to say that the allegations in the criminal complaint allege a gross breach of public trust that is placed in every elected official. They are very serious allegations to be investigated by this committee. Our work will be as thorough as possible, despite the fact that an ongoing federal investigation is taking place, which may very well limit our ability to do so. This committee will at times provide Representative Smith with as much notice and information as possible. He and his attorneys will have the right to be present at all public hearings. Representative Smith will have the right to speak to the substance of these charges if he so chooses, but he will do so on oath. Representative Smith will also have the right to provide this committee with any evidence that he believes will lead to his exoneration. This committee will do its best to make all information public that comes into our possession, and I think we're proposing to establish a website where the exhibits will appear. To the extent that the House rules do not otherwise require, we will post all exhibits on the website. We will give as much public notice as we can for the dates of all hearings. In the end, this committee's work must be thorough, open, and transparent. And as I indicated earlier, its conclusion must be fair for Representative Smith, for this institution, the Illinois House of Representatives, and for the public. Representative Reboletti, would you like to make some remarks?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Dennis Reboletti. I'm a representative from Northeast DuPage County. And prior to coming to the General Assembly, I worked as a Will County Assistant State's Attorney and have prosecuted numerous misdemeanor and felony cases. During that professional experience, I was involved in grand jury investigations of hundreds of felony cases. And this is a first for this state. I'd like to thank our legal research unit for providing us as much of the legislative history as possible, but never before we had a sitting state representative alleged to have used his office to exact a bribe for an official act. Pursuant to House Rules 91 and 92, this committee has been duly constituted by the Speaker and the House Republican leader, and that following the filing of a petition by 5 individual members of the House, our mission will be to review the sole charge presented by Representative SACIA, which he has signed and testified to, and to review the exhibits in support of the charge. We must thoroughly investigate this charge and use our subpoena powers judiciously in pursuit of all relevant and probative evidence. It is our charge to determine if grounds exist to bring charges against Representative Smith for formal disciplinary proceedings because the charges contain a level of misconduct and misuse of the office and a gross breach of the public's trust. Pursuant to House Rule 92, Representative SACIA, as the principal sponsor of the petition, has submitted a charge and all relevant information at his appearance before this committee. As I see it, the Special Investigative Committee is a hybrid that blends elements of a grand jury and elements of a preliminary hearing. We are convened with multiple members, and like a grand jury, if a majority of members prefer charges, we must sign a report indicating that and the reasons behind our decision, similar to a grand jury signing a true bill, and also indicating that there's probable cause to support an indictment or a charge. If we do not prefer charges, it is like a no bill in a grand jury, and Representative Smith would be exonerated. However, we do meet in public, like a preliminary hearing. And like the preliminary hearing, Representative Smith is allowed to attend and testify on his behalf, be represented by counsel, confront and cross-examine any witnesses that appear before this committee. And after a thorough investigation, this committee must review all evidence and determine if we should author a report preferring charges, which must be supported by a majority of the members of this committee. If a majority does not prefer charges, we must file a resolution to exonerate Representative Smith and state our reasons why. We are committed to working in a bipartisan fashion and following the evidence wherever it may take us. We are prepared to take the necessary time to obtain and review all evidence before a decision is rendered, and which will somewhat be dictated by what, if anything, the U.S. Attorney is able to provide us. We also want to make sure that we are not interfering with the criminal prosecution of Representative Smith, and that we will act as the finders of fact and are charged with rendering a decision that is supported and based on the totality of the evidence that has been submitted to us or been obtained by way of subpoena. We must definitely preserve the integrity and dignity of the legislative institution and its proceedings. And we also must take a look at if Representative Smith is in some way disabled, handicapped, or impeded from discharging the duties of his office. Madam Chair and members of the committee, I look forward to working with you in an expeditious fashion to review all the evidence, to take the time that we need to consume to resolve this matter, and that we do so in a bipartisan fashion. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Any other members wishing to make some opening remarks? All right. Seeing none, I think our next order of business is to determine what the first step is in our investigation going forward. Based on some discussions I've had with we've had with Representative Reboletti and Council before before we would want to look further into the realm of subpoenas or otherwise gathering information, we feel we should consult with the U.S. Attorney in Chicago. And there is precedent for doing this. During the House investigation into Governor Blagojevich, the Special Investigative Committee agreed at the outset that it would consult with Mr. Fitzgerald and avoid taking any action that he would consider an interference with an ongoing federal investigation. So, again, Representative Reboletti and I, along with the attorneys, would suggest to the committee that we contact Mr. Fitzgerald in order to obtain any relevant information that he may possess and to seek his guidance on whether any independent investigation undertaken by this committee would be considered an interference with the federal investigation. So I would ask for approval of the committee to take this first step. Is there a motion that Representative Reboletti and I contact Mr. Fitzgerald for this purpose? Representative Davis so moves. Is there any discussion from committee members? Seeing none, the clerk shall call the roll.
Nickritz.
Aye.
Reboletti. Aye. Davis. Yes. Osmond. Yes. Tepetti. Yes. Cola Di Pietro.
On a vote of 6 voting yes, none voting no, none voting present, the motion having carried, we will proceed at once to contact the U.S. Attorney in Chicago to have this discussion. We will be scheduling the next meeting after receiving the written response from the U.S. Attorney. My expectation, based on some prior history and discussions, is that we would anticipate that taking place the week of April 9th, although we don't have a date set yet. We will give notice of that public hearing, out to the public, and we will provide Representative Smith and his counsel with that same notice. Again, I appreciate your remarks, Representative Reboletti, and I do look forward to working with everyone on the committee in an open and bipartisan fashion. So unless there's any other business to come before the committee today, seeing none, the House Special Investigative Committee will stand in recess to the call of the chair. Well.
You're watching the Illinois Channel, an independent nonprofit corporation formed to provide gavel-to-gavel coverage of Illinois state government and other public affairs events taking place across Illinois.